Vicky, is the sound okay from your end? Because I have a mic I
Yes,
can clip in,
really.
but
I think we are live. I hear you good. And we are live. Peace, peace, family. Peace, peace. How are you today? I'm just double checking to make sure I can see that we are live. And it looks like we are. Yes, family. How is everybody doing today, family? I am so pleased that you are with us today, family. Of course, if you know anything about Vicky Diller, whether you've seen me here or elsewhere, you know I have a little bit of a ritual that as you come in, be sure to come in giving us a big thumbs up, thumbs up. Be sure to like and be sure to share. Family, you are in for such a wonderful treat today. I know you all can see that I have a guest with us today. And I know the Vicky family, Vicky Nation, loves our dear brother. And so we're so excited to join you today with our official ongoing. I'm looking at these comments. Look, y'all distracting me with these yummy comments in here. I see a couple of y'all popping on in, baby. Anyway, y'all, thank you all so much for your kind words. Yes, yes, yes. I'm so excited because we are starting officially our new ongoing international geopolitical podcast between me and my dear brother who's based out of the UK, brother Richie Sudan. I'm going to let him introduce himself here in just a moment, but let us get the household stuff out the way. Yes, family, on the count of three. If you haven't, on the count of three, everybody hit that thumbs up button and share, share, share. Why do I ask that you do that? I ask that you do that because it is supposed to generate notifications so that other folks will know that we're here. Now, how many of you all know that when you're dealing with Black commentary, Black broadcasting and media, how many of you all know that the powers that shouldn't be sometimes do what they can to prevent, frustrate, and foil our message? Yes? So when you actively engage, when you actively share, you make it more likely that other folks will know that we are here. Yes? On the count of three, hit that thumbs up button. 1, 2, 3. Thumbs up. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Share, 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 share. Yes, baby. I see y'all in the chat. Thank you all so very much for doing so. And I think they got a new thing on YouTube that's called hyping. Like, look, y'all, I'm fixing to be 100% transparent. I don't even know about all the hyping stuff I saw, and I've been telling y'all to hype ever for the past couple of broadcasts because I've been doing more videos on my personal channel. And I'm still giving commentary to African Diaspora News channel, their YouTube and their app. But I said I was going to start doing a little bit more on my channel. And I've learned about that little hype. And y'all been hyping, baby. And for that, we say thank you so very much, family. Thank you so much, family. Everybody, would you do me a favor? Put some hand claps in the chat, baby. Y'all put some hand raises in the chat and welcome our dear brother, Richard Sudan.
yes, yes, yes. Peace and love, Vicky. It's always a pleasure, an honor, a privilege to speak to you, to hear your insights. And, you know, I love all your audience, Vicky Planet. I think most of them probably know who I am, but I'm a journalist based out of the UK. And you and I, Vicky, we've been having ongoing conversations the last few years on a multitude of topics, you know, talking about the global Black diaspora, the FBA community in the US, and the global system of white supremacy, breaking it down, how it operates, and ultimately how we want to dismantle it. So I think this is a great opportunity to build on what we've already done, Vicky, and really create this kind of global community that can actually facilitate conversations and get things done.
Shay, I love that so much. And for that, Brother Richard, now that he's made that official, we're going to hit the gavel on that. Is that right, family? All right. The Honorable Richie Sudan and Vicky Diller presiding. We're so excited, family. And thank you all so much. They're welcoming you also in the chat left and right. So thank you all so much, family, for joining us today. We have several different topics, family, that we're going to hit on today. So we want you to really, really, really tap in. I really, really want you to listen very well to some of the things that we're going to be discussing. Now, one of the things Brother Richard and I decided we were going to talk on, and family, we want to get into this topic because we're going to be expanding very likely and I'll talk to my brother offline about this too. There's so many different moving parts and aspects to the Epstein files. Millions and millions of documents that have been released, millions and millions that still have yet to be released. So much of it is redacted, so much is covered up. And even what has been released and what has not been released combined, it still pales, Brother Richard, in comparison to what's actually out there. My understanding is just a small fraction of some of the things that we have no idea has actually been going on with the powers, as I say, the powers that shouldn't be. Now we're going to get into a bit of the topic of Michael Jackson and his name coming up as it relates to the Epstein file release family. Y'all stay tuned for that, baby. Yes, stay tuned for that. We're going to break it down. And Israel, we're going to discuss that. And of course, the fomenting war with Iran again and again and again. So these are very heavy topics. Now, I figure we could probably maybe just kind of start. You tell me your thoughts, Brother Richard, as it relates to what have you been hearing for our Black British family and just the Brits in general, to be honest, about the Epstein files. And is it some fallout as it relates to the royal family? What's going on with the Brits, baby? Tell us what's going on and your thoughts about this.
Yeah, that's a great question, Vicky. And again, I'm grateful to be here with you and to be speaking in conversation with your audience. The main thing that's actually bemusing me about the reaction to the Epstein files is really, I would have thought there would be pitchforks at the gates and people losing their minds. Now, in the UK, unfortunately, the royal family hold a particular reverence for millions of people. This is the power of white supremacy. This is the most affluent, powerful, one of the most powerful families in the world, and their wealth and power and prestige was predicated on the subjugation of people with darker skin across the globe. Now, despite this, they have wielded their power over the years to almost have people under a spell. Now, a couple of years ago, when Prince Andrew was first implicated with Virginia Giuffre, this really should have been enough to spark some kind of meaningful reaction. But really, people are behaving in a very docile way. But what do we learn? We learn that Prince Andrew was, of course, pictured with Virginia Giuffre. Rest in power to her. I do not believe that was a suicide. Your viewers will know full well she made very clear in saying she was of sound mind and body and that she would never have taken her life. Now, this young woman who was trafficked, abused and raped, she was pictured with Prince Andrew and, of course, Ghislaine Maxwell, the daughter of the Israeli agent, Robert Maxwell. And Prince Andrew denied. He basically suggested the picture was doctored. He said the picture was doctored. I've never met her. But yet, the royal family were willing to pay £12 million to silence this woman, although he never met her. Who pays £12 million to silence somebody they've never met? Open question there. But then the new pictures that came out of Prince Andrew, formerly Prince, he's now been, there's a damage limitation exercise going on with the royal family. They're trying to distance themselves from the former Prince Andrew. Yes. But the reality is, you all saw the new pictures that came out, the revolting, hideous, disgusting pictures that came out of Prince Andrew on top of what looked like a young girl on Epstein Island. And, you know, the reaction is revulsion in the UK by and large, but it's not enough to people to question the structure that produced it. And I'm actually, you know, I'm sitting here waiting for the moment for this big reaction, and it did not come. Now, in relation to your question about Black Britons, you know, Black Britons in the UK have been on the front line, remain on the front line at the mercy of the most draconian laws designed to quell dissent, designed to suffocate genuine political resistance, you know, from state brutality, police brutality, through to all the kind of immigration institutions that are imprisoning people. It's a dire state of affairs, Vicky. But I'm interested to hear what you think or what you feel has been the reaction within the community over there when you've seen this stuff about the royal family. I know there's a weird thing where we have a perception here that a lot of Americans kind of revere the royal family too. They think we love the royal family.
Right.
What's been the reaction in the US so far, Vicky?
That is absolutely, I agree with you on that 100%. I feel the same exact way. And I'm going to be very honest with you. For me, as a Black American, foundational Black American in terms of lineage, and of course, a citizen of the world, I am surprised that I'm seeing more alternative regular voices, Black voices that seem to be more concerned about white lives than some of the white media hosts. I have not seen from the Democrat side or the Republican side, and this is what's getting me, I have not seen from the Roland Martins, the Joy Reids, the Angela Rise, and some of these other modern blackface folks. I have not seen articles, headlines, like from the Black Enterprise and others. Look at this. That's saying how disgusted they are by the rape, the alleged murder, the trafficking. I'm not seeing outrage from Black voices, dear brother. The Congressional Black Caucus, the CBC, that large caucus is supposed to be so powerful of all congressional folks, that most Black congressional folks in Congress, that's supposed to be the voice for Black folks. I'm seeing them more or less play politics with the topic in terms of that Trump's name is named in their bunch. But you're not hearing them outraged about what I'm going to say, the violation, the crimes against humanity. You're not hearing them say and demand that there be an immediate investigation into the allegations. You're not hearing them say, let's look into all of these thousands of wires, Brother Richard. That's to the tune of more than, I think it's 1.3 or so billion, which is way, way more than that we're told. But there are thousands of wire transfers that's directly connected to Trump and some of the others. That in and of itself is a lead under the federal law here in the United States where that could be easily wire fraud. But we don't even have to jump to any conclusions. The fact that we have not heard them demand it, make calls for even investigation, the fact that they're not saying this is some of the most vile and egregious things that they have heard, the fact that you're not hearing even them say that, the fact that you're hearing them focus more on the politics of it, and they're right to bring up Trump's name. They're right to bring up the numerous members of the current President Trump administration that's named throughout it. But what you're not hearing them, this is what's getting me. I'm talking about the official establishment voices. That's why I want to be clear. The official establishment voices. You're not hearing the moral outrage. You're not hearing them say they're disgusted by the things that they have heard. And they know it's validity to it. They know there's some veracity to it. You know why? Because their fellow Congress folks are the ones that are going crazy about releasing it. And they're the ones, at least Massey, the white conservative, is the one that's saying, look, I'm of sound mind similarly, and that I am not suicidal. And he is one of the top ones along with Rokana that's pushing to release this. So you know it's something to it. And not only that, Rokana, the congressman here, guess what he said about the monarchy? He said what he's seen, he said he believes that this could be the end of the British monarchy. That's what he said. So this is what's striking me. And what's striking me is that I feel like I'm more concerned, and other Black alternative regular folks and podcasters are doing more to highlight the egregious nature of this than even some of the white talking heads, those establishment politicians, and even the establishment Black voices. You are not hearing that element, and that lets you know that there is something very, 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 very wrong. That's what's the most striking to me. The other thing I want to say very quickly about Black Americans, and this has to be understood very, very clearly. I just want to say very quickly here, Miss Cynthia, I see your gift. I like to shout out to people that are giving, especially, and all of those that are tuning in. But Miss Cynthia, your gift is blessed 1,000-fold. She said, will Prince Charles and the royal family ever return the stolen African jewels or pay reparations to those who have helped build their generational wealth? Baby, we're going to ask our dear brother to respond to that in just a moment. I wanted to acknowledge your gift. Family, thank you all so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button, share if you're just tuning. Also, family, take note that there is a pinned link at the top of the chat about my upcoming ancestors webinar, which I'm going to talk about that later. I'll plug that later, but I don't want to lose my train of thought. That's coming this Saturday. Save your seat today. It's going to be unmatched in every way. It has everything to do with the trajectory of the new world. And I'm going to connect politics, geopolitics, and spirituality all in one. You don't want to miss it. Listen to me. You know why some of us, many of my people are thinking, and I'm certainly first thing I thought. The fact that those who are showing some level of shock and outrage about the egregious nature on some of the things that we're seeing and hearing, about the cannibalism, about some of the very dark spiritual practices and rituals that are being said to have been done, about all of these different world rulers in most continents and the nations that are involved or named in some way, form, or fashion. You know what some of us have been saying, Brother Richard? They ate us in America. Mm-hmm. We're saying, okay, we can name family members some generations back,
right,
that were said to have been hung on trees. We can point to crucifixions and Calvaries in Oklahoma and Mississippi and Texas and Georgia and Tennessee and other places. We say, well, with Vicky, since I've been online in multiple networks and alternative media, I have consistently, Brother Sudan, without the need for such Epstein file type topics to arise, reminded my people and showed footage and receipts that white clergymen use our Black bodies on Sundays in many cases. That's the reason why a lot of times when you see some of the images of our people hung on trees, you see that a lot of times white folks were dressed up. That's because they were doing this ritual oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, guess what, on the Lord's Day. And they saw the ritual and the slow burning of Black bodies as a reenactment of Moses and some of the rituals that was done as it relates to some of the animals there. You understand? We are the ones that would show people postcards from Jim Crow era, where white folks were sitting and keeping these things as relics. That body parts were in some of their storefronts, that they consumed our bodies. You understand? So for us, we like, y'all gonna play down like you did. You because white lives matter now, you see. So that in a nutshell, I'm going to put it back to you. That in a nutshell is what I have been observing in different moving parts in terms of some of the reactions and some of the response on the ground and what I feel is happening, unfortunately, amongst establishment voices. You tell me your thoughts.
Yeah. You know, you hit the nail on the head, Vicky. And I think one thing I've noticed is the silence from certain quarters, as you've alluded to so articulately. The silence from certain quarters is deafening. And I believe that is because, if we're going to just kick reality for a minute, a lot of these people, be they the big media gatekeepers, commentators, members of the public, they are not outraged really by what they're hearing. These are crocodile tears. The only time they are outraged is if a Black person did it, if a person with a darker skin did it. Now, in the UK, in America, if you're Black or Muslim or both, like double bubble, if you're Black or Muslim, if you get so much as a parking ticket or a traffic violation, it's the culture. Where's the fathers? Is it a racial thing? Is this just how their community operates? Now, what I've really noticed the last couple of weeks, Vicky, is the politics of race is missing completely from the Epstein story, and the politics of religion as well. You can't mention certain religions or criticize bad people from certain religions these days without being cancelled, without being labeled with a particular smear. But the reality is this was the most egregious trafficking abuse network I would argue the world has ever seen, and miraculously race is suddenly out of the equation. This is predominantly white men indulging in whatever sadistic, satanic, ritualistic, cannibalistic killings, murderous, torturous things they were doing, and yet race is somehow miraculously missing from the conversation. And I want your audience actually to listen to me on this point. It is a matter of historical record that up until about 200 or 300 years ago, the royal family were openly consuming human flesh. And you know, your viewers, Vicky, are very astute. They know full well the You know, the reason why the European slave trade is arguably, well, not arguably, factually, the greatest crime in humanity is because of the dehumanization and the dark, deep, satanic practices these people carry out. Now, what's, you know, Vicky, you and I, you know, we remember, if you'd have said to people 10 or 20 years ago, you know, there might be a shadowy cult that moves in particular power circles, that has a grip on power and a handle on our governments, and is really calling the shots behind the scenes. And not only that, these disgusting, vile people are eliciting power in a way that's almost unimaginable. You would be called a conspiracy theorist. You would be called, in fact, a tinfoil hat wearer. But now it's almost like, now this stuff is coming into the open realm. It's almost like people are struggling to get their heads around it. And I want to also make a point really about the royal family. Now, your viewers may or may not have heard of a guy called Jimmy Savile. He passed away 10 or so years ago. Now, this guy was a TV show host who raised millions of pounds for charity for children. And it turned out after he was killed that he was a procurer of girls and children for powerful people across the media, across politics, across the world of celebrity. And, you know, the facts about this guy came out after he was killed. But this guy was a close, personal, deep friend and confidant of the current king, Prince Charles, who is currently the king. So I really have an inclination, Vicky, that what we are seeing now is really what they are drip feeding and allowing us to see. I believe this is the tip of the iceberg of the most wicked system, the most wicked system in world history that has been carrying on this way for hundreds and hundreds of years, if not millennia. And actually, you know, for anyone who was, you know, for me, I first heard about Epstein maybe 2017, 2016. And when he was killed, murdered, really, let's call it what it was. The guy was murdered. Millions of people believe he was murdered. You know, the dirt this guy had on people, again, we are just scratching the surface. And we are seeing what, Vicky, how our governments, your government and mine, have been completely manipulated, controlled by, you know, among other actors, Israel. And, you know, I'll land this point on this point here.
Come on.
What is Israel? I would argue that Israel is nothing more than an ethno-nationalist, white supremacist, apartheid colony, part of the Anglo-American empire, okay? And it's no coincidence that this man, Jeffrey Epstein, this monster, you know, Vicky, I'm seeing the stuff that's coming out, and our people cannot comprehend this kind of barbarity and violence. We can't wrap our head around it because it's not in our nature. But this man was an Israeli agent. This man worked for Israel. This man had a partner called Ghislaine Maxwell, who was the daughter of an open Mossad, deep, powerful operative. And this, for me, is the most stark example, or one of the most stark examples in recent memory of how white supremacy really operates. Number one, in terms of the murderous, you know, evil sickness they've been conducting. But number two, when it begins to get exposed, how the power structures are closing ranks around this system, how some of the files are redacted, not being released. So you're seeing this network in itself is the most evil, sickening thing imaginable. But the reaction to it, the damage limitation exercise, for me, tells us all we need to know about how white supremacy operates. And I'll land this point with this here. We all know if Jeffrey Epstein was of a different skin color, a different religion, come on, what there would be a global revolution or riot erupting. But it's rich, powerful white men working for Israel, so nothing to see here. In fact, what they are doing now in the UK, probably in the US, they're pointing the finger at Russia. They're trying to now say this is a Russian thing. And the thing that gives me a bit of hope, Vicky, is that I do believe, by and large, the masses around the world are not buying this horseshit, which is what it is. So it's going to be interesting, really, to see the global reaction as more and more of this stuff comes out. I mean, one thing I saw, Vicky, was I was never a Noam Chomsky.
Oh,
I respected some of his work, you know.
Yeah.
But when you see Noam Chomsky in conversation with Epstein, sharing pseudoscientific anti-black paraphernalia and websites, man, this whole thing has the potential to blow the perception of the entire world on its head.
Let me tell you something. Everything you just said, my dear brother, is right on. Everybody, if you're just tuning in, I'm Vicky Dillon. I'm here with my dear brother, Richard Sudan, based out of the UK, and we are here having an absolute, very, very, very important and powerful geopolitical conversation. We want you to tap in. We want you to be sure to share the broadcast. Thank you for joining us today. We intend to continue to do these international podcasts on a regular basis now, beloved. So stand by for more of that. Thank you for joining us today, family. Also, I want everybody to make sure that you save your seat for my upcoming February 21st. That's this Saturday, February 21st. I'm getting ready to do my ancestors webinar called How Bloodlines Shift Trade Lines. Oh, it's going to be so good, Brother Richard. Bloodlines Shift Trade Lines. And what is that about? That is literally about not only our natural bloodline as Black people in the United States and around the world, because I have people oftentimes attending from other countries, my webinars, but how our unique bloodline can actually shift, shape, and change the trajectory of the economy. And I'm going to break that down. There are some very natural things to that. There are some very supernatural things to that. So not only our bloodline, physical bloodline, biological bloodline, but there is an energetic and a spiritual vibrational frequency, a lineage that we're connected to that has everything to do with ruling the new world. And just because they said that they consider us to be the rejected, the outsiders, the nobodies, yes, the poor, the pathetic, the whatever other names they want to give us, there is actually something locked on the inside of us that if we unlock it and we activate our supernatural powers, we have the powers to rule the new world to come, literally from nothing. So I want you to make sure that you get your seat for this Saturday, the 21st. The link is above, or go to my website at VickyPlanet.com. It's pinned in the chat. Family, listen. When you mentioned about Israel just a minute ago, I posted something, and you and I have talked about this before. Remember when we did one of our previous podcasts, we talked about Israel, and we discussed actually right shortly after the October 7th, what I call the Hamas resistance, when Hamas resisted and pushed back in a very substantial way against the illegal occupation of the Israelis. And they blew it up into something else and a whole bunch of other stuff. We early on discussed the fact, literally weeks after, that there was an economic and a business element to the genocide there. We knew that they wanted to clear the land. There was economic reasons. Of course, there are a lot of different ones, different corporations, different companies. Not only that, access to the shipping lanes and the resources there and a bunch of other stuff. But we understood that this was a big part of what was going on early on. And of course, we're seeing the manifestation of that. Now, one of the things I posted recently, and we hit on this, I don't know if it was in that broadcast or one or two after that. One of the things that I remember saying to you before is that Israel does not have a codified constitution. Now, I've discussed that in some of my private webinars, and my attendees are often just shocked because they can't believe it. Now, they're one of the very few countries, dear brother, that does not have an official codified constitution. Now, the reason I emphasize that Israel of all countries, and it's only a small handful that are recognized countries that I'm saying. The reason that's very important is because Israel is supposed to be allegedly, we know it's a lie. This the only democratic nation that's over there. You're supposed to be this beacon of democracy, and you don't have a constitution. That's supposed to be one of the greatest signs that you are a part of the new world and that your society is supposed to actually be representative of the people. And so your constitution is supposed to be a reflection of that. So when I emphasize that, a lot of folks are really shocked by that. And if it was nothing to it, why is it that mainstream media doesn't often or even at all ever mention that very, 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 very important fact? Because we understand the United States That is very important to what the perception, though a lie, but the perception that we're somehow a democracy. Now, why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing that up because it's also connected in some ways, which I won't go into detail right now, which is the fact that I do not see Israel, because folks are saying, why we keep sending these folks billions of dollars almost since their entire existence? Why are we giving welfare to this country? Why in the United States do you have an overwhelming number of Congress folks that were willing to consider anti-Semitic language and embed that in our laws here against Americans? How is it that almost every American congressperson and other politicians serve the agenda of this foreign group? Why is it that they don't have to register like a foreign agent like every other country does? Why is it that all of these weird exceptions are made? And as I constantly connect the dots to, Zionism is directly connected to American slavery. The notion of sharecropping came from their Talmud, Brother Richard. They were connected to our school systems in terms of Jim Crow. They are deeply embedded in a lot of what we got going on here. And I'm making the point that the reason why a lot of this is going on, the reason why we fund them in ways that we shouldn't, the reason why we stand with them in the UN, in the UN the way no other country does, is because I see Israel as a laundering country. I didn't say a laundering company, a laundering country. It is there, I believe, as a laundering country because it is the dirty hand that is behind not only what we're seeing happen to the Palestinian people that are with those that are within proximity of them, but they are also oftentimes the hidden hands between the coups and the uprising in multiple nations and different continents. Let me ask you, does Israel have big lobbies going on over there in the UK? Are they controlling some of your Congress people and some of your corporations? Do you see APAC type lobbying organizations there in your country, Brother Richard?
We need to be here for about a week to really delve into all of that, Vicky. But what I'll say is this: we can start right at the top, really. The current Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, he takes power in 2020. In the April, a few months before he takes power, he says, along the lines, I'll paraphrase, I'm a Zionist without qualification. And from him to Yvette Cooper, to all these different people in the cabinet, there's been great work done by many independent journalists who have, so there's the money we know about from the kind of Israel lobby. There are the official trips that various ministers and shadow ministers make to Israel. But then there's the stuff we do not know about. And there's actually there's some great investigative work been done. One guy is called Paul Holden, who he wrote a book actually and cited some of my work at the newspaper I work for, which is, he basically showed how, I'm giving you one example, but this is the Prime Minister. So we're giving you the kind of top example, if you like. Yes. He was basically astroturfed to the top, including with Israeli money and including those around him. And it really was, if you talk to a lot of people who are following this in the UK, it was kind of almost a kind of deep state operation, a kind of psyop to get rid of the Labour leader at the time, Jeremy Corbyn, who said and did a lot of good things. You can criticize the guy, he perhaps wasn't a great leader, but even Corbyn's adversaries acknowledged that Corbyn was a man of principle. He wanted the UK to apologize for slavery. He supported reparations. He was against wars. And this was too much for the establishment in the UK. What I mean by the establishment is the security services, the military industrial complex, the big lobby groups, the big banks and financiers in the city of London. This was too much for them. And so and a big part of what the Corbyn project did was critique racism, critique apartheid in Israel, critique and demand an end to all of these things. And the UK establishment could not have this. So to circle back to your question, they needed somebody like Keir Starmer to come in to, among other things, quell the dissent against what apartheid Israel is doing. And that's really how Keir Starmer came to power. It was a kind of almost artificial movement, and he won a big majority last year for sure, but on a very, very low voter turnout. People are cynical. In fact, he's the most unpopular leader to win such a big majority ever. But there are many, many, many examples beyond Keir Starmer. And actually, one quick point just on this point, Vicky, is there was one group called Palestine Action that you and your viewers may have heard about.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, they took direct action against the kind of military apparatus used to subjugate the Palestinians, and they would spray paint and damage various military equipment. Criminal damage for sure, arguably, but they were prescribed as a terror group. Thousands of people were arrested, and now the High Court in the UK just overturned that ruling. The High Court, the Supreme Court in the UK, overturned the government's prescription of this group as a terrorist group. So really,
wow.
Yeah, and yeah, so really that explains how power works in the UK. But Israel, I mean, it's not quite like in the US. I see politicians in the US get millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. You can't really get anywhere in politics unless you have big backers. It's not quite as extravagant in the UK, but it's big money for sure, a little bit more regulated. But Israel has really, you know, a lot of people are seeing now that when Keir Starmer came in as prime minister, people now see that it's Israel, the Israeli embassy, Israeli officials that were really directing government policy. And I think we're seeing the same thing in the US, you know.
Wow.
People can have a view about Donald Trump, but I personally believe that whatever you say about Trump, I don't think he really wants an all-out regional world war. But Israel is doing its best to drag him and force the US into the war, because Israel knows it cannot win a war against Iran without the US. We'll see how this plays out. But it's a dangerous game these people are playing, and Israel is a tiny, tiny country.
Right.
You know, I mean, I've seen it for myself, Vicky. You know, I've done various work over the years. I've been in prison in Israel. I've seen it. It's a tiny, tiny country, and yet it wields such enormous power all over the globe. And people have been asking why. And I think now with the expose of Epstein and this network, we're starting to see the blackmail, the espionage, the trickery, the sorcery these people have been using to really dictate world policy for their own benefit.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very, 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 very well said. I want us now briefly to move to the subject of I want to wait to do Iran, if that's okay. I want to talk very, very quickly about your thoughts on Michael Jackson. I'll put a couple of things out here, family. Don't be tripping on me right now. Tell myself, Vicky, put up the screen and all that. Look, I'm not going to do all that right now. I'm getting it together. Talk Black to be somebody. Y'all know I'm a one-woman show. Me and my dear brother, we're doing this. The excellency is in the commentary. So give us a couple of episodes so that we can start setting up stuff whenever whenever we switch to like video footage and articles. Okay, family, can you all bear with us and give us patience? Y'all know I'm running my monthly school, the Vicky Dilla Mystery School. You all know I've got my special intensive school with my men called Treasures of Darkness I'm teaching. I have at the same time a 90-day course, a special high-end course for my goddesses called Isis Goddess Mystery Temple. Behind the scene, I'm also knocking out other projects and stuff. We just put out calendar, put out 2 more magazines, Talk Black to Me, and I'm making sure my health is good. My brother is busy with other stuff like that too. So give us a minute, okay? The point is that we're here. There's a lot of stuff happening in the world, and we're making sure that we're doing what we need to do. My sister, Dr. Sharon, said, take your time. Thank you, Precious. She's always such a good long-time supporter. So family, as you come in, if you're just coming in, make sure that you watch the entire broadcast later. We made a special announcement on what you can expect going forward with an ongoing international podcast with myself and my brother Richard Sudan. And stay tuned, but we're just getting started. Yes, let me tell you all something. I wanted to say this very quickly in terms of us talking about this Epstein stuff. One of the things that I know for sure, Brother Richard, I have done when I was on other platforms like Fly Nubian Queen, Your Black World, formerly Your Black World, Dr. Boyce, and other affiliate networks, and I was on. And even in recent times, I have stayed on the topic related to Michael Jackson. I did a very, very, very deep dive insight, and I used Black scholarship to substantiate a lot of what I was doing years ago, Brother Richard. Why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because one of the things that I talked about was this man named David Geffen. He is said to be a billionaire, has big hands in the music industry and the media and in media. This is not my words, and this is not to diminish anybody, but the literal term for the group that he was considered to be a part of was called the gay mafia. And some of them they enjoy referring to some of themselves as that. David Geffen was one of Michael Jackson's closest friends. Michael Jackson loved everybody. He didn't judge anybody based on any of that stuff. But even with that, in a book, I believe it was called Between Michael and Me, and I'm not vouching for the entirety of the book. Again, I'm going off of research that I've done years ago and some of my sources that I was able to cross-reference a long time ago. But you all can look into some of this yourself. So I'm not vouching for the entirety of the lady's book, but she makes an interesting point in the book that she was writing about Between Michael and Me. She says that Michael Jackson told her that David Geffen, who was a very, very close friend of his, right, a billionaire and connected to the media, music industry and all that, made a pass at Michael Jackson. And because he's part of the LGBTQ community, he made a pass at Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's rebuffed his past because I love everybody, but I don't like men. So it was said that he resented Michael Jackson for that. Well, you can look him up. But when you look at David Geffen, you also find that he has connections to funding like the Obama administration. And in fact, it is said that he contacted Obama before Obama even made the decision to even run for president and told him he was going to run for president and told him he was going to back him. And guess where Obama got quite a big, large chunk of his money from? And he got from many sources. He was one of the ones. But that's not it. David Geffen, Brother Richard, has connections with other administrations like the Clintons. David Geffen spent the night, I believe more than one time, at the White House. David Geffen, my understanding, was one of the ones that tried to coerce Bill Clinton years ago to impose more lenient laws for especially those that were gay in the military. Do you remember years ago there was a law in the United States called oh my goodness, I just literally forgot it. Y'all, somebody help me with the law that Clinton did. I told y'all this before. What is it? Say nothing, do nothing. Somebody tell me the name of the law. Y'all remember that was passed in the military where if you were gay in the military, you just supposed to keep it to yourself and don't say it. I'm literally, somebody put in the chat. Y'all can help me with my sister now. Somebody put the name of that military policy. Don't ask, don't tell. Thank you. Who told me that? Help your sister out. Memory in my eye. You got the right hand of memory. Listen. So Brother Richard, that was an actual law policy that was passed in the United States. Why? Bill Clinton used that as a compromise. So it's called don't ask, don't tell. So that, not that you don't have to be gay, but if you are, just keep it to yourself so it doesn't cause disruption in the military. Watch this. The understanding was David Geffen didn't like that because he wanted Clinton to go make more stringent and stronger pro LGBTQ laws. And because Clinton basically compromised, he did not like that. And so it is said that's the reason why he funded Obama instead of Hillary as retaliation. But don't forget, on the side of this, I told you, in addition to all his hands everywhere, remember I said that Michael Jackson considered him for a long time to be one of his closest friends, right? Well, Michael Jackson was said to have actually had a list of enemies, literally. And David Geffen was at the top of it. Watch this. It gets deeper. When you look up Oprah Winfrey and how she celebrated one of her birthdays a few years ago, guess whose yacht she's sitting on, Brother Richard? David Geffen. Pull it up. Who was discussing this before this Epstein mess? Vicki Dillard. Watch this. What happened? She didn't go alone. She took her girlfriend, Gayle King, on the yacht with her. Guess how Oprah celebrated her birthday on David Geffen's yacht, Brother Richard? By looking at Save the Netherlands. He wanted Oprah to push it. Watch this. Even though the feds were investigating Michael Jackson for years, guess what the feds found on Michael Jackson, Brother Richard? Nothing. Other numerous investigations came to nothing until finally one stuck. And that's when he went to trial on a state case. And guess what happened in that state case, Brother Richard? He was acquitted of all charges.
Yeah.
Watch this. David Geffen, and I'm not going to go there right now, but I did a whole expose on that. And again, I was using Black scholarship for that. Showed that his hands were, and I'm going to say this, allegedly, but there's more than enough credible evidence to show that he had some suspect connections that linked him to the death, some of us say the murder and the assassination of Michael Jackson. Now, this is important because even though he had been dead for some years, Oprah decides to resurrect the dead. And we honor his legacy by doing this dirty documentary on him. And then Oprah did what? She interviewed his accusers that all the courts laughed out of the courts. You understand? Watch this. So who put Oprah up to do this kind of stuff years after Michael Jackson has passed, notwithstanding what the courts decided, notwithstanding the feds had nothing, notwithstanding he was acquitted of all charges in the state case? Why did we see in the media, Brother Richard, a blitz of news of Michael Jackson in the United States and around the world that made it seem like that he was somehow a child molester, right? The very thing these wicked devils were doing behind the scenes. Watch this. I'm bringing this up to say, dear brother, and you jump in at any time, this was a part of the groundwork that I had been laying for the past few years, and I had been going off on Gayle King separately, been going off on Oprah separately. And one of the reasons why I did, Brother Richard, it was not because I was sitting here defending the likes of R. Kelly. It wasn't because I needed to go out my way to defend Michael Jackson, even though in Michael Jackson's case I did. And it wasn't because I was going out of my way to defend like Kobe Bryant. Watch this. The reason I was bringing that up is because my question to Oprah and the rest of these is, my sis, you were buddies with Weinstein. Right. He's one. If you look at Oprah's, one of the movies that she was in, I think it was about the butler and some of her other stuff, you see Weinstein's name at the end of the credits. And then after we called her out about the fact that she knew very well that a lot of this stuff was going on, but she played dumb. Now, she used her show to do what? She always was talking about sexual abuse amongst regular people, didn't she? But she ain't going to talk about her rich white boy homeboys that was doing all the dirty stuff. And then she comes out later in a Vanity Fair piece doing a podcast with Gwyneth Paltrow after we was exposing her funny looking self. And guess what she was saying to Gwyneth? Well, when I had my show, Harvey was such a bully. He would call and I would just detest answering his call because he would force me to have certain guests. Who's forcing Oprah to have certain guests on, Brother Richard? I thought she was a billionaire powerhouse. Do you think she will? Come on now. She said this in a Gwyneth Paltrow podcast. It's in Vanity Fair, pull it up now, and it's in other places now. Look at this. She's smoothed up with Weinstein all over the place. You own Geffen's yacht. And some people have been quiet about that. But guess who broke some news the other day? I connected it to Geffen, even though I was talking about that years ago. Guess what? It's connected even to the Epstein stuff. You know how, Brother Richard? And I want you to jump in after I say this. Everybody hit that thumbs up button, share. You know how? In the process of me getting ready to briefly go live and talk about this, guess what I found? I found a clip of Oprah 4 years ago approximately. Guess who did the commencement speech for a certain UCLA David Geffen Academy? Guess who did it? Oprah. And guess who in the wake of the Epstein release just stepped down from David Geffen's UCLA school? One of the executives for David Geffen's school in the wake of the Epstein stuff. And I want us to look into it. And I'm bringing that up because they specifically targeted Black women and Black men that have platforms so that they could cover for them. And then when the Bill Cosby's, remember they couldn't get nothing on him. And they finally did. And guess where he's at now? The appeals court had to release him because it was some BS. And a lot of folks were automatically believing it, didn't they? Because they said, it's 60 women. There ain't no way he didn't do something with 60 women and didn't look into it. What was that about? You understand? I'm bringing this up to simply say that we have got to be on top of this. But beyond the information that we're hearing right now, we have got to decide what are we going to do? How are we going to mobilize to hold these bastards, these devils accountable? Brother Richard, what are your thoughts on some of this?
Vicky, I'm so glad you talked about this, and I commend you because I know you've done a lot of different videos about Michael Jackson over the years. And these people, I promise this, they will be held accountable.
Mm.
I hope in this life, but they will be held accountable. And, you know, listening to you talk about Michael Jackson, rest in power,
Yes.
it breaks my heart and makes me so angry what they did to him. I personally believe he was not just murdered. I believe it was part of a kind of a much deeper ritual. But they took his life, and the main slur, the two main slurs actually. Michael Jackson was a proud, foundational Black American who loved his people. He loved all people,
Yes.
and is the greatest, most talented entertainer
Come on.
to ever set foot on this planet. He had
Tell the truth.
an almost an otherworldly gift. His ability to entertain, to sing, to dance. We will never ever see someone like Michael Jackson again. And the accusation, the horrible slurs they leveled at him with these wicked people, for me, every accusation is really a confession. Every accusation is really a confession. Them accusing him of these vile crimes is because they are the ones that are committing vile crimes. And the thing, like any Black person of prominence in America, in the UK, even if they're not political, is a problem to the system just by virtue of them being wealthy, influential, and having a platform. But Michael Jackson, if you really dig into a lot of his lyrics, he was saying some very profound observations that were way ahead of his time.
Way ahead of his time.
There's the pop music and the music and the just to enjoy it, but there was some deeper messages that Michael, I believe, was really trying to give to the world. He was trying to use his platform from the greater good, and we know, you know, Michael Jackson was a hugely intelligent individual. He was, I believe, he was friends with Johnny Cochran. He was, he had close counsel with Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. He was a smart, articulate, clued up man that wanted the best for his people, a proud Black American, but he wanted the best for all people. So many of his songs, the themes were about what, saving the world, people coming together, you know, getting rid of division. But I think that and that was a problem to the wicked powers that be. But I think the bigger problem was the economic independence that he really wielded. You know, the slurs and the accusations of the child molesting stuff. Actually, you know, we all know, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that every single so-called witness in that documentary has been thoroughly debunked and dismissed by various judges. So this is not opinion. This is just a matter of fact. And the fact is, he was independent. He owned the rights to his music. He was gaining the rights to other music. And that was a problem for the powers that be. Because if we, I don't just want to single out Oprah, but like, you know, I believe that certain people that are from our communities that look like us, even if they're billionaires, they are allowed to be front and center.
Wait a minute, say that word. Say that A word again, Brother Richard.
People are allowed to be front and center until they are no longer useful. So I can imagine a situation like the reason Oprah is so friendly with Weinstein and these people is because if she ever went against the grain, you would probably see her name traduced, dragged through the dirt, a character assassination or worse happen to her. So I hope with time, as more years pass by, I hope, and I think we have a duty, Vicky, that you mentioned, to clear Michael Jackson's name, to remember him for who he really was. Because in the UK growing up, everybody loved Michael Jackson. And actually, I don't know anybody in my family, amongst my friends, my peers, nobody believed the bullshit at the time, actually. Nobody believed it. And isn't it interesting that, was it Macaulay Culkin? I think he was very friendly. He was a good friend of Michael Jackson. If anyone would have seen any wrongdoing, it would have been Macaulay Culkin. And you mean to tell me that if a black man of that prominence in America was really carrying out the crimes they said he was carrying out, come on, they would have either found some real dirt or manufactured some dirt. They couldn't get him in life, and so they're trying to smear his name in death, but it will not work. Somebody like Michael Jackson is so powerful, such a beautiful individual. he will live forever. His legend, his impact is immortalized forever. And there's nothing that these wicked people can do. And that reminds me of another point, Vicky, which is this. As powerful, as sick, and as wicked as these people are, they're not as powerful as we are when we collectivize and utilize our power and work together. They're not more powerful than us. They know deep in their souls they're not more powerful than us. One day, I believe there will be a global awakening that will turn this wicked system on its head, this system that has been organized along the lines of colonialism and predicated on the suffering of Black people and other melanated people. There will be a global awakening that turns the system on its head. But you know, these people are aware of the power that people like Michael Jackson wield. And really, Vicky, we're probably not going to do it now, but we could talk about a whole bunch of other artists that we might argue became a problem for the establishment, from Tupac Shakur, rest in power to him, Nipsey Hussle, many other artists were a problem with a problem for the system, just by virtue of the power of their voice and the conviction and their commitment to their communities. These evil people hate this. There's a deep, evil, sick jealousy deep down in their soul. But just to circle back to dear brother Michael Jackson, I don't believe that most people around the world believe the accusations and the slurs. And furthermore, all of these people that have leveled these accusations have been debunked one by one by one. There are no credible accusations against him. It just breaks my heart what they did to that poor man. You know, like you said, Vicky, part of his, I don't want to say problem, but he seemed to just love everybody and just assume. And a lot of, we do this in our communities because we're not minded in that way. We naturally just assume people are like us. We assume festive people. We assume.
Looks like we just had a little bit of a glitch here. Fam, I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to give our brother a chance to come back on. Everybody hit that thumbs up button, share. Y'all see how he on fire right now? I said, y'all see how he on fire right now? And all of a sudden, we have a little bit of an issue. I'm hoping that he's able to click off and maybe come back on. But in the meantime, family, make sure that you get your seat for this Saturday. I'm doing an Ancestors webinar. I'm doing an Ancestors webinar this Sunday called How Our Bloodlines Shift Trait Lines. Family, in that, you're going to get, while I'm waiting to get our brother back on, in that Ancestors webinar, beloved family, you will be able to get information. I'm going to break down to you what's happening on the global stage. I'm going to connect it to what's happening spiritually, what's happening over our heads. Y'all know I'm going to always give you the brief of what spirit gives me. But everybody that joins is going to be included in a collective ritual. That means a certain type of spiritual ceremony that I'm going to do privately, that you're going to automatically, anybody, those that register, that pay for their seat. And by the way, if you can't make it live Saturday, if you pay for your seat, we're going to send out a replay. So you'll have the replay available for you for months. Yes? Okay, looks like my brother's trying to come back in. Give me a second, family. Let's see. Brother Richard?
Vicky, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We can see you too. Can you hear me and see me?
I don't know if you can hear me, Vicky. I can't hear you for some reason.
Oh, he can't hear me. Maybe let's see.
I can hear you now. I can hear you now, Vicky.
Okay, I can hear you. We can see and hear you real good.
Apologies for that, Vicky. I don't know what happened. I don't want to get all conspiratorial, but
I said right when my brother was on fire, I said, y'all see what he was hitting on and he went back. Family, if you can hear Brother Richard in the chat, please put a thumbs up. Somebody said, welcome back. So I think they can hear you. Yeah. Okay, my moderator says, yes, we can see and we can hear you. Okay, Ashe. Somebody else, y'all let me know if the others of you that y'all say, yes, they're able to hear and see you good. Please continue your point. Continue your point.
Yeah, I was wrapping up the point to say, I really hope that over the, as time passes, we can really correct the historical record regarding Michael Jackson, because that man deserves to be immortalized in world history for the king that he really was.
That
poor man, he was thrust into the spotlight from such a young age. And actually, again, every accusation from these people is really a confession. And I actually believe Michael Jackson was the opposite of the accusations leveled at him. He really loved children. He loved the world's children. He wanted an end to war. He wanted, he wanted people to come together, global unity, an end to suffering and oppression. A fiercely independent, proud black man who was in control of his destiny. And that's a problem in America and the UK. Sometimes, Vicky, I look at certain individuals who have had great careers, who seem to have a great moral clarity around them. And I fear and I worry that rather than being allowed to finish their lives and kind of sail off into the sunset, something's going to happen to them. I worry about certain individuals. But rest in peace, Michael Jackson, and God bless his family.
Ashe, well said. And matter of fact, I wanted earlier when you was talking, you was on fire. Somebody was saying our brother is on, he's hot, and that's why she said that's why they glitched you. I said, I know that's right. I'm gonna hit the gavel on that. How many of y'all know the Vicky Show is a home with the hand claps and the gavel raps, and we're holding court. Yes, we are today, family. Listen, again, I want to remind those of you that came in late, be sure to watch the entire broadcast. Of course, share this. I don't care if you sit it on, I ain't on TikTok right now. I'm off until my team say otherwise because of the weirdos, them folks, them same folks. Yeah. There's one crazy over there, y'all. So I done temporarily went off the stuff over there anyway. Before they start doing it officially, whatever new policies they made over there on TikTok, I've stopped putting as much content over there anyway because they was taking down my content, and I don't even go. That's why I do offline webinars so that I'm not restricted and calling out and giving great detail about the powers that should be and some of the elements that the pernicious elements, vile elements and forces, what I call to be planetary predators that on our planet. Why this is important. Everything that he just said. Do y'all hear what our brother said about Michael Jackson? And notice he's really hitting at the spiritual aspect of Michael Jackson. And this is what we don't understand in terms of music. When you mentioned before, in addition to all of the other stuff that they were doing, spiritually, musically, and a bunch of other stuff, you mentioned the fact about the economic element that's connected to the music industry. I posted one of the names, one of my people put some of the names of other artists over the years that certainly know everything about how Black folks were mistreated. Of course, this is the nature of some of those same elements and Zionist elements, believe it or not, that had everything to do with Black enslavement in the United States. That does not diminish the fact that some of us are actually aboriginal to this land. But for those of us that were also brought here in chattel slavery, it is very, very clear that the architect and even the owners of much of Black folks in America, when you read books like The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, that's just one of them. There's a series of, I think, of 3 volumes. You will find that it was they that actually taught what they considered to be, quote unquote, the Gentile whites, the system of slavery. You'll find that this has everything to do with Wall Street. Like I said, the invention of even sharecropping came from their Talmud, which for those of you that are not familiar with the Talmud, is basically like a commentary, a spiritual commentary to the Torah of some of the modern white Jews. Now, I don't even like to necessarily get into people's religions and stuff, but see, I have to, because people, especially the system of white supremacy, they come up with new labels and categories to hide behind. So if I'm talking about your white supremacy, you talking about anti-Semitism. No, Ninja, you still a white man with that hat on. You see what I'm saying? You still a white man. You still a white supremacist. You trying to hide with labels and let's be Democrat and Republican. And then the moment I called out Joe Biden's white supremacy, the Black Democrats jump off from me. You see? See, that's the problem when you're not Black first. That's why we say emphasize Black first. Why? So you don't get confused with the labels and stuff. You see how you all get thrown because they get to hide under labels. And then I say about your white supremacy, I talk about your predatory behavior. I talk about your thieving, your stealing, your this and your that. And then you start talking about your religion. And then when we call you out, this what got Whoopi Goldberg in trouble. You remember a few years ago on The View, they suspended Whoopi, Brother Richard. You know why they suspended her? Because when one of the guests on the show, and Oprah and Whoopi is allegedly a Jewish Black woman, and I'm bringing her up for a funny reason because allegedly her name is in the Epstein files for some weird stuff. And it made sense to me because every time I would call her a coon, I see now some of the people. This one, I'm gonna say this real quick before I make this other point. I need to probably apologize for some of the people I call sellouts that's Black in America. You know why? They ain't just raccoons, Brother Richard. They ain't just sellouts. You know what they really are? And this is why they don't like me. This is why White House press secretaries come against me. This is why the Rollins come against me. This is why the Joe Reeds don't like me. This is why the CNN folks don't like me. This is why the MSNBC that reached out to me that was mad about a broadcast I did. This is why you know why they don't like me, Brother Richard? This is why. They're not just coons. They're guilty. Allegedly. This is what I realized. And this is what I'm really, really good at. And this is the reason why I became a target years ago through my activism that I was doing solo for my fight for justice that I was doing locally. And then I ended up getting media attention because of the people that I was calling out when I found out the connections with the different people that were involved in some of the real estate mortgage scheme and stuff. Watch this. Baby. It wasn't because I understood all the details of who was all involved, Brother Rich. I didn't even get it. But when you start to ask even the right question, do you know that that question is going to lead to another question, another question, another question? If you're going down the right road, you're going to eventually get to where you need to go. And that was a distraction. So when I see people going crazy over Vicky Diller, you understand? Baby, it wasn't that they was just a coon. Somebody put a raccoon in the chat. Somebody put a raccoon in the chat. It wasn't just they was a sellout. They were guilty, some of them. And Brother Richard, let me say this. You hit on some things related to Michael Jackson. I want to play this. Family, tell me if y'all can hear this. This is what I'm saying. Don't be tripping, y'all. We're going to eventually get it together. I'm going to have my brother help me with the tech stuff and my team behind the scenes. But for now, this is what you're going to get, and we're going to love this. Yes. Stop laughing at me. Don't be saying, Vicky using her phone. Yes. One woman show. I'm making the world go round. We all right with that? This is a clip of Michael Jackson exposing Sony. Now, I'm happy the reason why I'm bringing this up because, and the reason I'm emphasizing the fact that I was dealing with a lot of these different topics before a lot of folks now, it's not just because I'm trying to rest on my laurels and toot my own horn. I'm bringing this up to let you all know the mouthpiece the enemy uses. That should tell you something. When folks, the Democrats, Brother Richard, do you know that they had access to a lot of this stuff, that the Democrats could have made this an issue? Why, Brother Richard, when the Democrats in the United States had access to release a whole bunch of other stuff, why didn't they do it, Brother Richard? The Democrats. Why didn't they show outrage? They were hearing credible rumors and possible evidence of that folks were murdering women and children, sodomizing them, raping them, and eating them, Brother Richard. Why didn't the Democrats show outrage? The reason why I'm bringing this up, Brother Richard, because when I was talking about the likes of the Roland Martins, right? And I would always go to him telling Hillary Clinton, let's do the wobble. Remember that clip? Have you seen that clip where he sit up there telling Hillary Clinton, let's do the wobble? And all of us know, God forbid, don't do the damn wobble, because you're going to instigate a damn tsunami around this smoke. You're going to mess with the tectonic plates of the underworlds, ninja. Watch this. And I have to do it like this with them enemies. Watch this, watch this, watch this. I understand now why my energy was like this when this spiritual. Watch this. When I would take that further with the Hillary Clinton, I always brought that up to not only laugh at him, Brother Richard. The reason why I kept talking about the WikiLeaks stuff. Why was I bringing up the WikiLeaks, Brother Richard? Because Julian Assange told us some of this then. Roland's name, and that's why I stay on Roland, his name came up in the context of Hillary Clinton because he was working behind the scenes with her campaign, feeding her campaign direct questions. And the only reason why I knew it, and the reason why Vicky Diller was going crazy on his funny looking self, somebody put some basketballs in the chat, is because I found out Roland's name came up in the WikiLeaks release, Brother Richard. But that ain't all, Brother Richard. You know John Podesta on Hillary Clinton's campaign? He's one of the biggest named people related to the Pizzagate and the pedophilia and the trafficking of children. That's connected to Hillary, the emails, and by extension, Roland Martin. So me talking about Roland Martin and us laughing about them doing a wobble with Hillary, and me connecting that to the fact that that's why CNN won't have him on anymore, and me connecting the fact that him and Donna Brazile, remember the black woman Donna Brazile, she ended up stepping down from CNN because she was connected to that. When Roland was working with her, he was the one that was allegedly credibly feeding her the information. She lied at first too, but she ended up taking more responsibility. So all the major networks end up shunning her. Now she's making appearances now, but Roland let her eat the whole thing. Roland lied at the beginning, Brother Richard, and said no. But guess when Roland changed his story? When he realized he had some other emails that connected him to it, that's when he changed his story. And so when a Vicky Diller comes in and I started doing basketballs and talking about you came from the underworld, and I started playing the roly-poly and the wobble, and then I connected back to the WikiLeaks documents, I'm a problem for y'all. But Roland is just small. He's a small part. He's on a low level as it relates to who? It had to do with the emails with Hillary Clinton, John Podesta, and all of this is connected to the Epstein stuff today. And this is why you all need to pay attention and ask yourselves. This is why the Joy Reids keep defending Hillary Clinton to this day. You better ask yourself, why isn't the Congressional Black Caucus at the very least calling for investigation and showing outrage that they find that it egregious that world leaders are involved in this? They're not showing that outrage, and that, my beloved family, lets you all know who are also the other enemies. Brother Richard, I want you to comment here in just a moment. Watch this very, 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 very short clip. I'm gonna cut it off. It's actually 6 or 7 minutes. Can you all see? This is Michael Jackson. Everybody hit that thumbs up button, share, share, share. And as soon as I play, Brother Richard, I want you to talk, please. Y'all, first of all, tell me if you can hear this, because I'm not putting this on the speaker. Can y'all hear this? 1 second. We're so pleased that you're with us today. Again, if you're coming in late, watch the entire broadcast, beloved. We're going to talk about briefly after this Iran, and then we will end today's podcast. Yes? Can y'all hear this?
Anyway, first let me say, I really don't like to talk that much.
Can y'all hear it?
Mm-hmm.
Really don't. I prefer to perform than talk. Yeah!
Now watch this. Watch this. Pay close attention to Michael Jackson here, family, okay? Michael Jackson has a piece of paper in his hand. Now, I'm bringing this up because our brother Richard just brought up an important point. Remember, he started talking about that in addition to all the other things, he was saying that we understand that with the artists, there was also possibly an economic thing that was going on. I forget exactly how you said it, but to me, you intimated that. Y'all listen to what Michael Jackson said years ago.
You know, let me just say this. The tradition of great performers and I really want you to hear what I have to say. The tradition of great performers from Sammy Davis Jr. to James Brown to Jackie Wilson to Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly. The story is usually the same though. You know, these guys work really hard at their craft, but the story ends the same. They usually are broken, torn, and usually just sad. And the story is very sad at the end because the companies take advantage of them.
Wait a minute. What did Michael say? Brother Richard, did you hear Brother Richard? Brother Richard, I know we far away, Brother Richard. Brother Richard, did you hear what Brother Richard? Watch this. I hope you read.
Watching that, Vicky. I can't lie, I felt emotional watching that. I felt goosebumps all up my back. I felt the spirit jumping me because actually, you know, before you rolled the clip, Vicky, and there's so much to unpack with a clip. Before you played the clip, I was actually thinking in terms of like spiritual warfare. We can talk about economic and political power, but for me, a lot of this boils down to good versus evil. Now, what I was thinking was this. I took a plane journey, right? A flight, and I watched the amazing, this is one of my favorite films now of all time, Sinners. I've seen it maybe 3 or 4 times now. Now, I'm going to choose my words carefully because I know I'm not a foundational Black American, right? I'm an outsider giving you my honest observations. Yes. But my takeaway from watching the film, and one thing I loved about the movie was the beautiful way that the film illustrated the power of Black music, soul, and spirituality, and how it's been a common thread and liberating force through the darkest times. But not only that, it's such a deep, powerful, profound spiritual power that actually, beyond being a liberating force in America, in Haiti, in the Caribbean, around the world, it's actually become a global trend-setting force. And for me, Michael Jackson stood at the very pinnacle of that kind of force. And because he was so powerful in his majesty, this was another reason beyond the political and the economic why they had to take him out. Because you can talk about the politics and the money and the independence, etc., but just by virtue of the power of his performance and his magic, the powers that be know that this kind of power and magic, when used for good, does the opposite of when it is used for bad. So these people can try and evoke certain powers on the Epstein Island, in South Africa, Australia, wherever. But when this power and spirituality is utilized for good, for righteousness, for truth, there is nothing that can stop this force of nature, this force of God, this soul, this spirit.
I'm gonna put you
and
on
it's like Michael Jackson's talking about the economics and the independence and the system, but it's like when that man talked, you could see his soul and his spirit shining, and that kind of is infectious. When people allow their light to kind of project, it has the ability to kind of shed a light on everything. All that's in the dark is revealed. And again, for me, this is another reason why Michael Jackson was killed, murdered in a, you know, in a kind of ritualistic public lynching. But you know, they can kill the body, but they can't kill the spirit, right? The spirit is eternal.
I want you to still say one more thing on the other end of this 1 more minute of the clip. Can you can you go a little bit further for me in just a minute? Whatever else you about to say, I know I'm putting you on the spot because you and I didn't talk about this clip. Give me another minute, and then after you see this, then tell me your thoughts on the next part of what you hear him say. Okay, I'm not gonna play the whole thing, but I want you to just a little bit more, because what you're saying right now has everything to do, Brother Richard, with why I'm talking about bloodlines and trade lines this Saturday. The spiritual element of that and how all of it is interconnected, and it's a spiritual element to it, and we don't understand how us unleashing our magic in all of its different forms is an actual threat to the powers that shouldn't be and threatens to overthrow their energy. Watch this.
And Sony, being being the artist that I am at Sony, I've generated several $1 billion for Sony, several billion, and they really thought that my mind is always on music and dancing, and it usually is, but they never thought that this performer myself would outthink them.
Brother Richard, Brother Richard, I'm going to put you on the spot. I did this to you on purpose. I did not send this to you early. We didn't discuss this particular part. Brother Richard, what's your thought about that? What's your thoughts about that?
What Michael Jackson just said was so courageous, so brave, and so astute that for me, it elicits nothing but admiration and love, and gives the rest of us no excuse to not carry the torch forward, because somebody like Michael Jackson understands how the system works. He probably had an idea of what his fate might be, but it shows you the just the sheer intelligence of the man. He understood his moment in the historical context, and at that moment, when you've made that much money, you've made that much influence, the easy option, which actually no one could blame you for, you're a family kid, no one will blame you for not putting yourself in danger. But Michael chose to highlight the wickedness of the system. And can you imagine how the boardrooms, the managers at Sony were quaking in their boots and shaking after what Michael Jackson said? That was a remarkable feat of courage that he did not have to do. But again, I suggest that, you know, Michael Jackson had a deep love for his people. Yes. He understood the power of his art, and he really wanted a better world for all people. And, you know, I'm surprised. Well, I'm not surprised, but that clip really, for me, sums up exactly what the man was about. And to call out Sony by name, you know what I mean? This is that's an incredibly brave statement by an incredibly brave man. And again, you know, the most talented entertainer who will ever live. Like, no one has come close to Michael Jackson. Not even close.
Come on. Let me tell you, I won't play the other part because I'm going to save some of this for my, very likely, for my webinar of the weekend. But he also calls him by another name, one of the executives. He called him a devil in that same clip.
Mm.
And he asked people not to actually film what he said, but they end up, that's how we see this, because somebody did what he asked them not to do, the group that he was talking to. He asked them actually not to film that part, but they end up filming it anyway. Brother Richard, this is very important. It's too much more to go through. I want you to briefly hit on in the next few minutes. We're going to hit on this last topic, family. Y'all enjoying yourself, family? Isn't this powerful? Isn't this wonderful, family? And it hits on so many different things related to the world and how all of these different things cross. Let me tell you something. I want you to talk to us, and I want you to start this, Brother Richard, and you tell me how you want to do this, because this is our joint podcast. But I want you to tell me your thoughts on what in the hell is going on with Iran, and I'll tell you my 2 cents of what I find interesting. And I've discussed similar things like this before, not only on the African Diaspora News channel. I discussed this seemingly out of nowhere before the last more obvious escalation of war with Iran. Why do I say obvious escalation with the war with Iran? Because the United States, dear family, we've been waging all kinds of war with Iran behind the scenes for a long time. And even under the previous Trump administration, Trump is the one that whether you all know it or not, Trump assassinated, murdered high-ranking Iranian officials, military officials. Do y'all know that? Trump, the first administration. And subsequently, Iran put a warrant out for his arrest. And one of the other Middle Eastern countries also has a warrant out for Trump's arrest. And I have speculated for a long time now, this is one of the reasons why Trump, in addition to making and fleecing the world of money by him being in the office, the highest office in the land, he's trying to secure himself that way. But I also feel like he's trying to secure himself for other reasons, because I believe Trump knows that in any moment, not only could he be possibly taken to The Hague if the wrong global South people continue to be in control, but I also believe that he, along with others, know that if America and the rest of the white West in particular don't continue to control the world, they're going to find themselves behind bars, locked up, indicted in hell, probably on somebody's firing squad, depending on which country and culture you're dealing with. And you all may think I'm kidding, but I'm not. If you look into Marco Rubio, as well as some other members of Congress from years ago, family, Marco Rubio has sanctions against him by China. And some have speculated that China and perhaps even another Asian country may actually have a undisclosed warrant out for his arrest. So when I did a broadcast on African Diaspora some time back about why Marco Rubio didn't show up to one of the global summits in South Africa, I have speculated that that was one of the reasons why, because he avoids certain countries because he fears that he might actually be arrested because there were sanctions on him when he was a senator. There's a lot of stuff that's happening behind the scenes, family, that we don't know about, but there are arrest warrants. How is it that from day to day to day, we don't just regularly hear about the fact that other countries in Trump's first administration put a warrant out for his arrest because he's out here murdering and killing people? And y'all actually thought that Trump was a peaceful president. Talking about he ain't about war. The hell is you talking about? That's crazy. That sounds a sign that something wrong with a lot of y'all's heads. And that proves that the media has us under a spell. But I'm here to break that madness. And some of our other folks too. But listen to this. This is important about Iran, Brother Richard. And I'm going to connect some dots here after you tell me your thoughts on what is going on with, and I don't know, did you know that Netanyahu just left the United States again? Trump has only been, what? We're in 2026, right, family? We're in what? February. Trump has only been in office, what? A year and a few weeks, a year and a month. Look this up. Don't quote me on it, but I think Netanyahu has been here, Brother Richard, at least 6 times.
Several times, yeah.
That is, I'm talking about physically. Now, I speculate it's because he's concerned that if they talk over the phone, that even though Israel is the biggest snooper and the biggest spy and the biggest surveillance devils on the planet, I believe they fear that that might be at risk if they talk about what they really gonna do, and they're afraid that some of the other countries may be able to maybe have tapping into even higher levels of technology. They may be able to snoop on the stuff. So I believe that's the reason why he's using all that money. Of course, I'm trying to slow up him Netanyahu's criminal trials going on. So I don't know if y'all know that right now Netanyahu is involved in 2 different criminal cases. Y'all know that? He's been always involved in some corruption and stuff, but they finally caught up, and he's in court. He's been trying to prolong it over and over again. But besides that, Richard, tell me your thoughts, please.
Yeah. I think, honestly, I agree with everything you said. I mean, fundamentally, Netanyahu has to keep the war going because, as you say, there's 2 or 3 indictments in Israel for him. He's going to prison whenever Israel, stops doing what it's doing. That's just a reality. Those are just the facts. You can look up your viewers can look up the indictments for themselves. Now, regarding the situation, the US posturing and its allies posturing against Iran, I think it's really important for the US and UK audiences to really deal with the facts when it comes to Iran, because I know that your country, Vicky, and mine are submerged in propaganda from the corporate mainstream legacy media, right? But the facts with Iran are this: Iran has always been a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Iran has been very open about its civil nuclear program. It's allowed inspections, etc. It's Israel that has hundreds and hundreds of nuclear weapons. Iran has respected international law. And fundamentally, the fundamental point for me is this. 2 points, actually. Number one, Iran has not attacked another country for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. In fact, it was so long ago, the last time Iran attacked anyone, it wasn't even called Iran. It was called Persia. That's how long ago, when Iran attacked anybody. And the other thing is this, and I want your viewers to go and do their own kind of independent digging and research about this. But Iran really, for me, has been the difference between the entire region being destabilized and preyed upon and not. It's Iran that has really been supporting the groups that have been fighting the different terror groups, from Al-Nusra, Daesh, Al-Qaeda, all their different offsprings in the region. And again, if we were going to go a bit deeper, Vicky, you and I know that actually these groups that have been the biggest purveyors of terror in the region have oftentimes been funded, supported by our own governments for their own ends. But really, when we want to talk about terrorism in the Middle East, and again, this is fact, this is not my opinion, the original terrorists in the Middle East were actually Israeli terrorists, the Irgun, the Stern Gang, the Haganah. These were the groups that, butchered Arabs and other groups in the region, but also carried out the King David hotel bombing in the 1940s. When, I don't know if your viewers know this, but the UK government had its headquarters for mandatory Palestine in Jerusalem. And it was Israeli terrorists that attacked the UK's headquarters, killing 90 or so people, including British diplomats. It was Israeli terrorists that hatched a plan that didn't succeed to kill Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And actually, your viewers probably won't know this. There's a plaque in Israel celebrating the King David hotel bombing. I want your viewers to look this up. The King David hotel bombing. And in fact, the reason the late Queen of England never visited Israel was because she hated them for the King David hotel bombing.
I did hear that.
So far from Iran being in the problem in the Middle East, it's Israel and its allies that have been wreaking havoc all across the region. I'm not saying that no country is beyond reproach and criticism. Every country can be fairly criticized, but Iran has not attacked anybody. Yes. Iran has been open about its nuclear program.
Yes.
Iran has abided by international law. Yes. It's Iran, actually, that supported other revolutionary groups around the world.
Yes.
This is just the facts. And yeah, again, I want your viewers to look up the Irgun, the Haganah, and the Stern Gang. These were the groups that were extremist Israeli groups, but actually they became the backbone for the modern IDF, or the Israeli occupation forces. And one more quick point, Vicky, is this: that a lot of the time in the media, it's kind of framed as Netanyahu being this kind of aberration of Israel. No. The vast majority of Israelis, unfortunately, support this madness.
Come on.
Why wouldn't they? This is ethno-nationalist settler colonialism. And again, we were talking about spiritual warfare, Vicky, good versus evil. Again, another confession for me is when you have to tell people you're God's chosen people. Right. That says something, doesn't it? That says something. If I have to tell you, Vicky, I'm God's chosen people.
Hold on, let's hit the gavel on that, Brother Richard. Let's hit the gavel.
And again, every accusation is a confession. Every statement you can turn on its head. Your viewers can work out the reality of that statement. God's chosen people. It's looking like the opposite for a lot of people now. It's looking like the opposite of God's chosen people. And again, you know, there are Israelis that are against this, to be fair. There are protests, not enough, but there are protests for the right reasons. But I just want to make the point here, and I will never stop making this point. The original Hebrews, the original Israelites, the original Jews were black people.
Come on.
That's just a fact.
And what does Israel do to the black people in Israel, Brother Rich? Please tell us.
Forcibly sterilizes them, murders them, imprisons them. I mean, we can talk about police brutality in the US and the UK. It's not really talked about in Israel, but black people, it's quite sad. You have black Jews migrating from the African continent to Israel, oftentimes, Vicky, fleeing civil wars that Israel has had. For example, Sudan, fleeing those wars, thinking, I'm a black Jew. Let me go to the only safe haven for the Jews and guess what happens? They get there and they realize it's just white supremacy with a different name. As you mentioned, Vicky, they can call it whatever the hell they want. Left wing, right wing, red, blue, democracy, blah, blah, blah. It's just white supremacy. And that's what Israel is. And black Jews go to that country and they very quickly realize not only are they not accepted as Jewish people, even though they are the original Jews, genetically proven with the DNA, not only are they the original Jews, they are subjugated, maligned, and forced to live in the worst parts of Israel, treated like dirt by Israeli society, and, you know, forcibly sterilized. So, you know something, Vicky, if these are God's chosen people, somebody tell me what the devil looks like then.
Tell me what the devil, let me tell you something. I got to hit the gavel on that one again. And even somebody called you prophet, somebody said, let's have church prophet Richard. Talk black to me, somebody. This is so important. And this is very, very profound. Everything that you just said. One of the things I'm going to bring up that seems like it's not connected, but it's important. When you mentioned about Winston Churchill a few minutes ago, and I know that we have been taught to hail him as some liberator, as some, you know, very profound, you know, a strategist that saved, you know, Britain and fought Hitler, and, you know, he was willing to do. Child, please, let me tell you something. This is my Mississippi girl that now lives in the Wild Wild West piece of something up. Whenever somebody does something for white society that saves them from some catastrophe, we supposed to all celebrate. That most of the time, all they celebration ain't got nothing to do with us. Because at the end of the day, we can find, we understand that when white folks get a reprieve from whatever war they was having with each other, and they saved from it. Talk black to me, somebody. And we was one of the ones, Foundation of Black Americans, took our hips while we was under Jim Crow. Y'all was still lynching us. We still couldn't pee in the same toilet. Our bodies were still being burned, and we still donned the uniform, came over there to free you from Hitler, and then you turn around and twitch your hips over here and call us anti-Semitic. You don't get your funny looking tail from away from. Can't nobody check us, baby. Can't nobody check us. We fought in every war in the United States. And while we were under siege in the United States, we went over there to free you. And you think you're going to twitch your lips and say something to us? I wish we would. Now watch this. I digress. Watch. Winston Churchill. Out of nowhere. This I always say out of nowhere because I'm divinely guided when I do something. People just like Vicky just be on these different subjects, and it's always going to be something to what I say, even if it's not apparent typically at the time. Let me tell you something. A long time ago on African Diaspora News Channel, not too long ago, I did a whole piece on this. I want y'all to look at this. And by the way, don't miss the point of our brother when he told you that Iran has been abiding by all of the nuclear agreements. And one of the ones that you're referring to, I believe, is the JCPOA. And I'm specifically pulling that up because I wanted to get the exact acronym correct so the audience can pull this up. Family, if you're not familiar with this, many of you should by now. That stands for the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the JCPOA. What is that, family? In May 2018, when Trump was in office the first time, do you know that it was Donald Trump's funny looking self that announced that the United States was pulling out of that joint comprehensive agreement with Iran? What was that? We were able to monitor what Iran had going on over there. All of the experts said that they were following all the rules and regulations, and Donald Trump, because that was signed under Obama, that was initiated under Obama. When Trump got in office, y'all, he threw all that away. Now, first of all, I'm not going to stay on that topic long because there's another point that I want to make as it relates to Iran and ancient Persia. Listen. Number one, This is a mental illness conversation for us to even be having this conversation like this. Why do I say that, family? Who the hell are we to be telling another country what they can do? This is crazy that we even sitting up here talking about we over there monitoring another country. This is outrageous, y'all. And this is what I do not want y'all to lose sight of this. This is out freaking outrageous that we're talking about another sovereign country and telling them what to damn do. Do y'all see how that's a mental, that's a weird, there's something wrong with that? Do you all see how that's out freaking outrageous, and the fact that we still talking about other parts of this like this is some normal stuff? It's not, but I'm gonna talk about that because I have to. But I'm just saying the context is this is some crazy ass stuff. This don't go like that. This not your country. The hell are you, America? One of the newest countries on the planet. What you twitching your hips over here? So I want y'all to keep that in mind. Don't never lose sight of that. When you hear me talking about international issues, always keep that in your head. Okay? Now that I'm done screaming and hollering about that, this is crazy. Do you all know that Israel and the United States are one of the only countries that refuse to participate in some of the nuclear agreements? Do y'all understand that the United States of America, who has nuclear weapons, Israel with those nuclear ballistics or whatever heads and stuff over there, do you all know that Israel is still has not, quote unquote, disclosed their nuclear program? Do y'all understand that? And we're making demands on a country about their nuclear programs when Israel, which I told you I believe is a laundering country for the United States, we use them to do dirt. They're the ones that have not signed on to such agreements. Nobody inspects what they got going on over there. Do you all understand? I've talked about this in my private webinars too, that Israel has what they call a Samson option. Brother Richard, you know what I'm talking about with the Samson option, where if Israel feel like that the world comes again, the world comes against them, that they're willing to literally, no exaggeration, they're willing to allow the whole world to go to hell with some of the weapons that they got over there. Do y'all understand that's what they call their Samson option? Look that up. That Israel is willing to do whatever it takes, including blow up the rest of the world, if the rest of the world don't stand with them. And if they claim they feel threatened. Do y'all understand that? Somebody just putting all these things in the chat. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. I want y'all to research this. Now, keeping that in mind, okay? Keep that in mind. While we keep that in mind, why would, if we were concerned about them having nuclear weapons and causing destruction, and as our brother just told us, they have not been engaged in any wars with others in hundreds of years. It's only the United States, Israel, everybody else that's out there killing and murdering and invading countries and all that stuff. You got to ask yourself, if that was true, why would Trump pull out that agreement? Because it's not about that. It's not about that. That's a red herring. It's a distraction. They're using that for all the other dirty stuff that they're trying to do in the region, y'all. They're trying to keep dumb, stupid masses of sheep. And I'm having to use that strong language on purpose. My brother probably would never use it, but I'm using it. They're using dumb, stupid masses of sheep to keep us distracted on them just talking about Iran. So when we have a whole bunch of conversations about Iran, how they're not trying to do this, and how Iran following all the rules with the nuclear agreement, when we talking about that, they doing something else. Do y'all understand that? And let me post this. No, the Ledger mentioned the Samson option yesterday. Well, good for them. That's my shout out to my pillar brothers. But I talked about that many times before in my private webinars and stuff. But that's the truth. I've been on that. Been on that. And it's important. Listen to me. You got to understand that when you have a country that's not the size of the United States, but it's still a formidable country, there's hundreds of millions of people that are over there. They have the potential to do X, Y, and Z. Do you all understand the power of the resistance, that even though the United States, even though they're making the people suffer, doing all kinds of other stuff in the country, they still have the power to disrupt, delay, frustrate, and foil the agenda of the imperialist white supremacists? Do y'all understand that? And because Iran, as our brother just told us, what did Brother Richard just tell us? He said Iran is the one that's helped to fund what? What did you say, Brother Richard? That Iran helped to fund other what?
They've been basically like part of the resistance. They've been pushing back against colonization of the region. It's Iran that has been fighting al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, Daesh, and all these other various groups. It's Iran that's been fighting them. It's your government and my government, Vicky, in the UK, that's been using these different groups at various points because it's politically expedient for them. Iran has not. Iran hasn't attacked anybody. You know, we're living in an era now where if you'd have said to me 5 years ago that a democratically elected president of Venezuela will be kidnapped in broad daylight and dragged to America, I'd have said, you know what, it wouldn't go that far. I can imagine certain things happening, but this is what the Anglo-American empire does, like self-determination and the utilization of resources and the nationalization of resources for the widespread benefit of the people is a big problem to the Anglo-American empire, because the Anglo-American empire just does not have the resources for longevity. And that's part of the reason we probably need a few more hours, Vicky, right? But that's part of the reason why they took out Gaddafi. We all know why they took out.
That's a certified fact.
Brother leader Muammar Gaddafi. You know, this was a man, I mean, he was trying to get money to the Nation of Islam and Farrakhan.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I think countries like Iran operate in the same spirit. There's a street in Iran named after Malcolm X. And again, I'm very careful not to pretend or romanticize and paint a perfect picture of any country, but the facts speak more clearly than my words ever could. Iran has not attacked anybody. Iran has played by the rules. And actually, a lot of people will tell you that Iran probably has not responded as strongly as it should do, or it justifiably could do. Because what other country would accept its scientists, its civil engineers being assassinated? We're not talking about actual terrorists, or you could argue that one man's terrorist and another man's freedom fighter. We're talking about scientists. Scientists were murdered in Iran.
That's a fact.
And you know, negotiators, Palestinian negotiators were killed by the US and supported by the UK. And I don't know if you know, your viewers know this, but there's some great work done by a platform you guys should follow called Declassified UK. An investigative outlet does great work, and they basically proved that it was the Royal Air Force in recent months over the last year that was conducting surveillance flights over Gaza, fact, and then lo and behold, hours later, after these surveillance flights had been recorded, those were the areas that were getting bombed by Israel. So
this is so important. Everything that he's telling us, family, and the interconnection of this. One of the parts that I wanted to add to this, when you mentioned about some of the other moving parts that relates to the countries and their big money interests. I'm reading from this piece here. How many of y'all know about this? Y'all see this headline? Can you all see this headline here? Let me pull it back. Can you all see the headline? What does it say? Somebody tell me what this headline says in the chat. That was the year I was born. I was 2 days into the year. And here comes Vicky Diller, January 2nd, 1979. Y'all see this? That says, what led to the 1979 Iranian Revolution? This is important for you all to understand. There's a lot here that I won't go into now. I typically go into these types of things in my more in-depth webinars, like the one I'm getting ready to do this Saturday. Make sure that you join. The link should be posted in the chat above, or go to my website at vickyplanet.com, family. Listen, because I'm going to connect some dots that you need to understand. In this piece, and of course, there are many pieces that talk about this, what led to the 1979 revolution. That's why I brought up African diaspora earlier when I said I did a piece out of nowhere before all this stuff started to happen. This is what I briefly discussed. In 1979, do you all understand that there was a Western puppet that was put in place, and it was the people that rose up and drove that Western puppet out of Iran? Y'all know that, right? There was a series of things that were taking place in Iran, I think from 77 to 79, but it culminated in 1979 when they successfully overthrew him, right? The United States and the West have been pissed ever since, because that was a revolution from the ground. The people drove their funny looking selves out. And by the way, my understanding is that when the people took some of the folks hostage, how many of y'all remember hearing about the hostages and stuff? My understanding is that with some of the black folks that were over there, they said some of the Iranians let the black Americans go. Did y'all remember hearing that when you do some of the research on some of that? That's not unusual even in war, because I was told too in Vietnam and some of the other Asian wars that some of the Viet Cong actually released some black Americans, the soldiers, and asked them what they were actually doing over there. That's another story. Somebody else just said, yep. Somebody said 100%. That's another story. But I just wanted to throw that out there real fast, real fast, real fast. And some of y'all agree, because some of you know I'm telling the truth historically. Now watch this. What some of us don't understand, and why did I bring, when Brother Richard brought up Churchill earlier, and I said everybody consider him to be this and the third, but guess what ended up happening? after he was hailed as somebody. They were broke after fighting Hitler. Y'all know that, right? But they needed the United States to do some of the dirty work because they were broke. Britain, y'all listening to me? Now, they already had an agreement, what was known as, and I wonder if I can pull up here, the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. How many of y'all remember hearing about that? I believe it's called the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. Now, let me see if I can pull it up just to make sure I'm getting my actual name correct. Yes. Y'all know I ain't making it up. You can pull it up. I'm going to use this reference here. Can y'all see this? Y'all see that? Look it up. The Anglo-Persian Oil Company, known as APOC, APOC, was founded in 1909 following a 1901 concession. It was the first to extract petroleum from Iran, specifically in Masjid Solomon. I didn't pronounce that name right. Soleiman. The British government took, y'all listen, the British government took about 51% controlling stake in 1914, fueling the Royal Navy. Listen, and this is the point that I made a long time ago. Listen, renaming Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, the AOIC, in 1935 to, who is it, y'all? What name you see there that they renamed it to?
British Petroleum.
British Petroleum, BP. Are y'all listening? Now, I'm bringing this up because Churchill, the country was broke. The nation was eating dry eggs based on my research and slop, and was wearing, I guess, their work attire and just broke. White people were struggling. Okay. So when white people were struggling, they think about who land we can go steal from. Whose resources can we steal to survive this month? You listening, family? So Churchill wanted America to get in on it, but the current president at the time, was it Truman? I don't want to mix up the names. He wasn't feeling it right now, especially for no damn company, no oil company at the time. And plus, the United States enjoyed the fact of having authority over the companies in Britain. You understand? So America wasn't about that life. They wanted to continue to stay on top. So what they look like trying to help you out. Watch this. But they knew that they needed the United States to assist them so they could survive. And they could change the agreement that they had with Iran to get more resources, because that was the only little bit of money they had coming in that made some differences. Somebody just said, that's true. Talk black to me, somebody. So Churchill was the mastermind that came up with the idea. So let's stop talking about oil company and our survival on that and start telling America it's about communism, the Soviet scare, and all that other kind of stuff. So guess what? He's the one that came up with, let's change the narrative that this is going to affect them. And that if Iran and them going to eventually become the new Moscow again. And do you know that that's how the United States got involved? But they knew that they couldn't all get involved in a typical way with regular war. So guess what happened? What is y'all's intelligence called? Is it called MI-16, brother Richard?
MI6, yeah.
MI6. Y'all listening? So he know I'm not making this up. Y'all look this up, research. So the MI6, the intelligence agency for the British, look, they already had some boots on the ground in Iran. So they knew that they had already tried to overthrow Mossadegh. Mossadegh, that's his name, Mossadegh, not Mossadegh, Mossadegh. They was making fun of Mossadegh because they said that he would be wearing pajamas all the time. They said that he was having nervous fits. They said sometimes he would even cry, but the point is he understood the people, and the man was no dummy. And it was Mossadegh, in case y'all don't know, that said, hell no, British need to get their hips out our land, and I'm going to nationalize our oil because it belongs to us. Mm. Guess what? The British didn't like that. They wanted more of the stake so they could survive. They needed the United States. U.S. refused at the time. So they came up with the scheme, communism, scared America death. We decided we're going to join in, but how? The MI6, they were already spies. They had hands and feet on the ground, ears and eyes on the ground, rather. So guess who they brought in? Somebody just said, ooh, They brought in the CIA. They tried to overthrow Mossadegh one time, but guess what happened? Mossadegh got wind of it and ended up surviving that one when they tried to come in with an actual physical overthrow. So instead, the one they were successful on was using their spies. Are y'all listening? Thank you, Miss Dr. Sharon, for putting all the information in. I'm gonna put it up for y'all to see it. Y'all know I ain't making it up. What does it say? Anglo-Persian Oil Company, APOC, 1909. After 1908, oil discovery in Iran was a major British company, became Anglo-Iranian Oil Company in 1935, later rebranded as the British Petroleum, BP, in 1954. Pay it, come on, somebody, listen. So, now that they got America on the ground with them, you got the MI6 and the CIA. And that's how they ended up coming in to infiltrate and to take over and then to install who they wanted. But guess what ended up happening, y'all? In 1979, after a series of different things that took place from 77 to 79, they overthrew the West puppet. And the United States and the West has made Iran suffer for it ever since. And because they could not win physically, they have been squeezing them with sanctions, economic warfare, and other such things. Do y'all understand this? I'm bringing this up because I'm trying to get you all to see that BP Oil Company, corporations, are y'all listening? Are the reason why some of your family, friends, and loved ones are on tours and dying, and that your military actually serve as police for American and Western oil companies. That's what I'm trying to get you all to see. And there's way more to it than what I'm going to say here, which is why you need to come to my webinars and quit thinking you always know so much more than me. That those of you that's laughing because you see the gavel. And you get confused real bad. But then you put your hopes and dreams on rapists and pedophiles that implicate MIT, Harvard, the medical industry, the science industry, and mostly every continent, for sure, at least 6. I say that to say, don't you dare try to check me in a way that you know you never could. Down that sadistic, dirty, satanic rabbit hole you most certainly will get stuck in when you're dealing with the powers that damn it should not be. Brother Richard, what do you have to say in parting words, brother?
I agree with everything you said. Reminds me of what's really happened to Cuba and Venezuela over many years. You know, Trump talked about a few weeks ago, they've taken our oil, but really you can translate that. What he really means is after the revolution and then Chavez came into power, they basically kicked out ExxonMobil, all the big corporations, and decided they wanted a fair deal for their own people. Again, like I think you outlined the history of Iran in general terms very, very well. You know, and I actually, the point I want to make about Iran is this, like, and I'm far from an expert, but I know enough to know this. This is a deeply proud people with a long, rich cultural history going back thousands and thousands of years. Yes. And if there were divisions in Iran, as there are in any country, the best way you can unite a people is by threatening them. And I think if America is dragged or chooses to embark on a war in Iran, I think it ultimately will just lead to it will be a huge failure. You're going to have a Vietnam situation where it could go on for years and years and years, but they will never succeed in occupying those people. My fear is that the US and their allies will try and do something really stupid and take out the leadership in Iran. Should they do that and be foolhardy enough to do that, God help all of us, because the entire region and world will be dragged into war. And I think the other thing people need to remember economically is if this war against Iran is embarked on, stupidly enough, the Straits of Hormuz are going to stop the flow of oil in a day, and that's going to trigger a global recession. Iran controls the Straits of Hormuz and the oil that comes out of that region. And if they decide to flick the switch, the oil will stop. And if the oil stops, which is really what this whole thing is revolving around, is oil and money. You know, our countries, Vicky, when I say our countries, I mean our governments.
Yes.
Millions and millions of good people in America. I know that. Millions and millions of good people in the UK. We know that. But if the oil stops, you're talking about a global recession, global calamity. Actually, one quick point, Vicky, just for the avoidance of doubt, we're talking about Churchill. I want your viewership to just, for those that are not clear, to understand that although there are millions in Britain that revere this guy, I'll probably get into a lot of trouble saying this, Vicky, but I'll just say it. Like Churchill, by his own admission, was a card-carrying, proud white supremacist. He would be spinning in his grave if he was hearing people trying to argue that he wasn't anything other than what he was by his own words. He had a disdain for black people, a disdain for people of darker skin, a disdain for the Palestinians. And actually, just to kick the reality for a minute, like, I don't really like comparing empires and stuff, but if you want to talk about the British Empire, it's got a far greater body count probably than any other empire in human history. You're talking directly millions, indirect murders, hundreds and hundreds of millions.
Come on.
So Churchill for me is no different from Hitler
Come
or
on.
King Leopold, all these other leaders. And it's interesting to me, he gets such a pass, but then again, you know, one of the things Dr. Frances Cress Welsing has taught me from reading her work and other great leaders is that, you know, black is really the intersection of the world. All roads lead back to white supremacists. Sometimes, Vicky, people are saying to you and me, why are you talking about this stuff? It's all kind of linked as part of the global system. But Churchill was a deeply, deeply evil man by his own admission.
Yes.
And, you know, white supremacy is a global currency, you know?
Yes.
How is it that a family like the royal family who've conducted so much evil, the Royal Africa Company, the Royal India Company,
Come on,
killing millions of people, why is it that these people are revered as being moral, virtuous, and having values and all this horseshit? Again, it's just every accusation is a confession. All this, you know, it's almost like everything they say they stand for is really the opposite. It's like when our governments talk about human rights, we care about democracy. No, we don't care about human rights. We don't care about democracy. This is about money. This is about control. This is about power. The only language the Anglo-American Empire really understands and respects is money and violence.
come on.
Unfortunately. But to end on a bit of a positive note, I do believe the world is stepping into a different chapter now.
Yeah.
You've got global emerging economies all around the world. And again, I always say this, I'm not painting any country as being perfect or rosy, but China, Iran, and Russia and other countries around the world, they just don't have the same level of violent history that our countries have. And so although so like, for example, China, you know, I'm deeply concerned really about some of the things China's doing on the African continent.
Y'all see that? Okay. I can see you. Can you? I can't hear you, but I can see you. Okay, he's going to try to come back in, I think is what he's saying. I can't hear you, but I'm assuming just tap out and come back in then. Okay. Family, he's going to come right back in so we can end this in just a moment, family. But again, while we wait on our brother to come in, thank you for joining us. First of all, family, thank you so much for joining us. I'm gonna wait for him to come back in. Hopefully he can come back in so that I can have him close us out. But I want to see every one of you. You are more than what you know. Are you listening? I said every one of you. Okay, it looks like he's coming back. You are more than what you know, dear family, is what I want you to understand. And so is your bloodline. And I'm going to talk to you about that. Give me 1 second. Brother Richard, I can see you.
Vicky, can you hear me?
Okay, it's coming through now. Keep talking. Brother Richard?
Yes, I can hear you, Vicky.
Okay, we can hear and see you. Okay, there he is. I want you to close us. I don't want you to miss your point. I want you to go ahead and close us out. And as you close us out with parting words, please make sure that you tell the audience how they can stay connected with you. And family, just know this is going to be an ongoing thing. We're going to let you know the frequency of it pretty soon. But for now, I want you to just tell me in the part of what you were saying about Churchill and other things, and then let the audience know how we can follow you.
Yeah, I think I made my point about Churchill. Car-carrying white supremacist, murderous, genocidal maniac. Unfortunately, it is what it is. He's the #1 Briton in the UK. Unfortunately, that tells you a lot about how some people think, how some people are deluded.
Yes.
That aside, Vicky, it's been a great privilege to speak to you and your audience on this platform. I'm always grateful to listen to your insights, Vicky, and I'm grateful for everyone who tuned in. And I'm really looking forward to developing this podcast, this project. As you said to your audience, don't worry, guys, we're going to get a lot more organized in terms of this and that. This is the first one, but we just wanted to kind of really start a conversation, an
Yeah.
ongoing conversation that can shed light on the issues that really matter to us. And last point, Vicky, I didn't really know till late in the day you're going to bring up Michael Jackson, but I'm so glad you brought up Michael Jackson. You know, these are the really important topics. And also, last point, Vicky. You know, a lot of people, when they hear your politics on mine, a lot of people often misconstrue that as I see it online all the time. People, oh, you hate America, you hate this, you hate that. I don't hate any country. I believe there's millions and millions of good people in all countries, including America, including the UK. In fact, I believe most people are inherently good, but that's precisely why we need these conversations and this productivity to deal with the many challenges our communities are facing. But more power to you, Vicky Dillard. Everyone watching, go support Vicky, go to her seminars, go to her online classes. You can learn a lot from Vicky, and we have to support our dear sister. We appreciate you, Vicky, and thank you for having this conversation with me and your audience today.
My privilege, and thank you, Brother Richard. I mean, every single time you're on, you always educate us. You're so full of passion. The people always speak about the knowledge and the information that you bring because they find it so fascinating. Someone that's actually on the ground there and the perspective that you have and how you inform us of what's happening in terms of Black Brits and Britain in general, but also your perspective of things. And you have for a long, long time, if you have seen him be active online, he has always been supportive of Foundation of Black American reparations, justice. Before the last months and year or so of the ICE stuff, before stuff reached the fever pitch on other issues, our brother was rocking with us about justice for Black Americans. And for that, we're so grateful, even though, of course, our brother is a Pan-Africanist and love people around the world. And that's fine because he shows respect, yes, family, for Foundation of Black Americans. And so I think having those conversations are important. The only issue that I've ever had with anybody that's from another country is when they come to the country and show disrespect for Foundation of Black America or try to rewrite the history of it or to diminish that which we do, or in many instances, unfortunately, become a collaborator with our open enemy here in the United States once they reach certain positions and then turn around and work against us. But if I'm not dealing with that type of individual, I am more than happy to connect with that individual because that is so, so very important. They're saying thank you so much. So family, give our brother a big round of applause. Again, stay tuned for our next upcoming announcement for the next time that we're going to collaborate and the topics. Family, let me tell you something that's very important. You hear a lot of people talking about a lot of things that happen that has to do with the way the world turns. Yes, but it's not often that you see folks like us, Black people, melanated people, that's chiming in about the condition of the world. Let me tell you something. There's a reason why that's the case. There is a vibrational and a spiritual reason for the most part that is not the case. Because when you have typically Black folks in whatever landmass we find ourselves in, we typically the moral conscience, typically. We typically are the more conscious. And so when you have someone with the energy and the history of the folks that we see unveiled in the Epstein files that implicates literally so much of the world, and the different spheres within and on our planet, you understand is that there is no limit to their vileness, to their wickedness, to their barbarism. So when you have somebody like us within proximity, it puts a check on some of that. Do y'all understand? And even if they decide they want to continue to do it, you stand in the way in which they would expand their madness. So this is why also, Brother Richard, I used to fuss about some of us, like when COVID started and they wouldn't even, we stopped saying even the word COVID online because they was coming against us. I was being censored before COVID. My stuff was being demonetized, censored, snatched down for regular truth telling. But anyway, in that process, Brother Richard, they tried to use a Black woman as the face. When Fauci started to come under fire, when Black folks were hesitant in the United States for taking a shot, they started using this Black girl. What's her name? Y'all, Kissy. And I was, oh my God, I took her name through the mud because she was an intelligent woman, beautiful young lady, worked with Fauci, right? But they tried to end up making her the face like she the one came up with the vaccine once he started to come under fire, even just a little bit in the beginning stages once we started asking questions early on in the pandemic, right? And so I was making the point that sometimes when you deal with Black folks that show a certain academic ability, Sometimes what we think is a promotion isn't. It's a restriction. Sometimes when they see that you are some kind of a genius and they say that I want you to come work for me, they don't want you to do something that's revolutionary for your people. And God knows they don't want you to expose the pharmaceutical industry, the scientific industry, and they damn sure don't want you to snitch on some of their wicked plans in terms of depopulation. And they don't want you to blow the whistle on the fact, well, all you need to do is, I'm paraphrasing, for example, all you need to do is take this herb or do this thing. Because the pharmaceutical industry is a big money business, isn't it? They make a whole lot of money when you're sick or dead. And so when they bring one of us in, whether it's a Wall Street, High Street Society, when they bring us into their labs and their corporations and companies, they give you an office desk and they give you a card. That's not a promotion. They're putting you in a type of corporate prison. And then they give you an assignment so that your genius doesn't go outside of their bounds. And so that you don't do anything that can liberate your people, assist your people in any meaningful way. And most importantly, so that you can use your genius for their wicked purposes. And they give you awards. They'll tell the Essence magazine to have you on the platform. They'll give you a big old sticker. That's the certificate is the equivalent of a sticker. They'll tell so-and-so to bring you on to do a certain news segment to make you think you something. But it's a trick. And I want you to keep that in mind. Now, I brought that up for a reason. I don't even remember why I brought that up. But that's very important that we use our brilliance. Oh, that's why I brought it up. It's very important that you are careful on who you're listening to in any of these spaces. And to make sure that those voices that are contributing aren't, puppeteers. They're not those that are bought off and sold. You know why? Because you're not going to get the message. And in fact, you're actually participating in your own undoing because you're moving along with a narrative that benefits the hidden hands. Does that make sense? I love you so much. I can't wait to see you this Saturday, February 21st. The link is a link. Can y'all see the link in the chat? I can't see it from here. Let me see if I can see it on this device. Is the link pinned above, family, in the chat? Can somebody see if oh, yes, it is. It's pinned, is it? Yes, where you need to register for the Ancestors webinar. Don't forget, you're going to get informed about what's going on in the world. I'm going to give you a general understanding of the state of affairs. I am going to let you know what I believe that we need to do in terms of ongoing as it relates to a solution. We're going to talk specifically about how we use our spiritual systems. I don't care what your religion or background is. We're at war. You can clearly see it. And all y'all's Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, white evangelical Zionists, the damn Dalai Lama, which is a Tibetan Buddhist, Muslims that share some of the most sacred fabric, what is it known as the kiswa, with his sick behind I'm talking about to Epstein. And God knows, can you only imagine, I won't say here, what he might have been doing with that sacred fabric and the energetics that's on it. I love you back, beloved. Who else? Deepak Chopra, who's a type of universalist that's embraced all sorts of universal spiritual principles, is in there talking nasty about young girls. I bring that up, Brother Rich. I'm going to end it here. I promise I'm going to end it here. Y'all be tripping me out when you look at other people, other nationalities, other religions, like they're the sexiest, cutest religions, and you want to sit here and talk to me about some damn love and light, and we at war. Vicky's just too much. But with your polite behind, they're murdering and raping and eating bodies. And they're the ones that they put before the world. They're the ones that sell millions of books. They're the ones that are on Oprah's platform. Have you noticed all the pedophiles that's connected to Oprah, by the way, the loving lighters? Look at me, I'm a girl. I like to have fun. I ain't screaming all the time. Just sometimes. I know there's a balance, but goddesses understand that there is both love and what else? War. And this is why some of y'all don't like me, because you want to commit your madness in peace. That's why every time something goes on, you say love and light. And you that have embraced the love and light, look how they have infiltrated the entire world with their madness. So you're looking at the most ancient human being on the planet on both sides of the screen. I don't give a damn, like he just mentioned earlier, if it's a damn Noam Chomsky. I don't care about the MIT and the scientists and the Harvard folks that's implicated. They're not older than your ancient mamas. And when we were guiding the world, guess what we did? We blessed every person on the planet. And I can assure you, they weren't murdering children and invading lands just for the hell of it. And it's a new day. And you're going to get some of this work on this Saturday. Talk black to me, somebody. I love you so much. We can't wait to see you again, family. Be sure to share the broadcast. Okay, we thank you so much. Thank you, Brother Richard. We will see you again. Yes?